you chose family, you chose different values, and I said to him, well, would you do things differently? No, 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 I wouldn't do things differently. I had to do what I did. He was an immigrant son. His parents came over from Italy, so he was just a driven person. So it's gone full circle now. And the funny thing is now that, or not the funny thing is, but I now talk all over the country, even around the world. So I had not expected that I would late in my career be in a position that has this kind of impact. So, and I don't think he gets it. He still doesn't get that. And so part of growing up, I guess I would say, is learning to reframe yourself outside of your parents. Because certainly my parents, it was all about success and money and all those things. That was going to define my self-worth. So achievement. So learning to break away from that was a big deal. Time consuming. Great question. Yes?
Are you optimistic?
About?
About, like you talked about legacy a lot. Do you feel confident that you are making a positive legacy and that the work you're doing will make an impact that you want it to?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's clear that there are banks like us that are growing up around the world and beginning to have more impact. There are a few other banks like us in this country. We're clearly carrying a message of a new economy, which is different. And when I look at the millennial generation, I see that generation as demanding different kinds of things. The millennials that are in the workforce already are very much wanting purpose in their lives. They don't want to wait. And they're very much demanding values in the things that they purchase and whatnot. You see the impact they're having in companies. So I don't know if it's so much my legacy from what I'm doing, but I think it's that there is a new economy building. You heard about B Corps, I think, with somebody. There's now a couple thousand B Corps in our country. So we're, B Lab is a client of ours. We're a B Corp. So working with people like B Lab, Social Venture Networks, all these different entities together, we are building a new community that is being embraced by some parts of our country, especially by the millennials. So I think it's going to take longer than I would like. I think by the time we get climate change dealt with in our country, we're going to be facing a real crisis about it. So I do think that the generational change will be much better. And I may not live to see it all. That's a great question. Yes, go back.
So what does an organization like this sort of thing do to make sure that kind of this triple bottom line doesn't devolve into a single bottom line as the individuals in the organization might have agreed themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, when I got there, we were more in that camp than we were in the mission camp. And so there's a number of things. I mean, one is who you hire. And so there's always this tension, Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, says you want to get the right people in the right seat. And so what does that mean, right people, right seat? And so we were always struggling between people that had the financial skills, the banker skills, and people that had the heart for mission, the passion for mission, what I'm talking about. And those two didn't typically go together. Most people in the banking world didn't care about what I'm talking about. So it was quite difficult to hire people. And what we found was, if we hired socially minded people who didn't have a banking background, that didn't work because they really couldn't do the job. And yet if we hired bankers who didn't have a mission background, mission values, that didn't work because they marched to a different drummer, and that was like having a subversive force inside the company. So we had to decide that we were going to hire people. The right person was people that got a mission, vision, and values, and that if they didn't, we didn't go any further with them. So we had to become much more selective in our hiring. And that has finally begun to pay off. And I think, again, with the millennials, a lot of millennials came out of business school. They wanted to go right into social enterprise. But the problem is they don't have any skills. And so typically, for a lot of businesses, you need some training. And so we would say, look, go work for Chase for 2 years, get fed up, and then you'll have the skills you need to go to someplace like us. So we've found it much easier to hire in the last couple of years. But that's one thing, hire the right people. Second thing is, get the right shareholders. So when the bank was formed, we had two groups of shareholders. We had a bunch of people, Silicon Valley investors, who said, oh, a green bank, that's really great. This is a cool niche. The bank will grow, we'll sell in 7 to 10 years, we'll all make lots of money. No commitment to mission. And then we had a whole bunch of investors that were very committed to mission. And when the financial crisis happened, our stock tanked, and all of those opportunistic investors basically said, oh, banking is tougher than we thought, doesn't look like we're going to get a good financial return. So a lot of those investors bailed out. And that was terrific, and it gave us a chance to raise capital from people that were more socially minded. And ever since, we've been very focused on getting the right kind of investors. When we raise capital, it's a private offering, it's not a public offering. So getting long-term patient investors was another key to it. And then I think, making some tough decisions, like we decided that 100% of our lending was going to be to what we consider to be values-based or mission-oriented companies. 100%. Now at the time, that sounded radical, but once we did that, our major shareholders said, well, of course, why wouldn't you? I mean, you can't be, half values-oriented. You can't be doing this business over here kind of in the dark of night, and then you do this business over here in the daytime. Either you're values-oriented or you're not. So once we made that decision, and we had to define what that looked like, then that was kind of like, how you put filings on a magnet and everything sort of lines up. That's what happened internally. It became clear that not only were we getting the right people, the right shareholders, but the strategy was focused in this area, and we were going to stick to that strategy and make it work and become good at doing that. So, could it slip back? I don't know. I think now, we've got a pretty good culture all the way throughout the bank, shareholding, board of directors, et cetera. I'm not saying it's, couldn't change, but we're pretty embedded with what we do. That's a really good question. Other questions? Yes?
You said that this new economy of well-being, like being well, is emerging.
So the economy that's emerging, the new economy, when I use that phrase, the well-being economy is really me talking. The new economy is an economy that's, I guess you would call it conscious capitalism. So conscious capitalism means that, number one, they incorporate values in their business operation without being told to do so. They worry about externalities without being told to do so. So if I'm importing cotton-made shirts from India, I want to know what's the wage, is this fair trade? What are the people being paid? Where's the cotton coming from? What's the whole supply chain look like? So they're bringing in values. They're not doubting the science, so they wouldn't argue about climate change. And they value the future, so they don't just work off of discount rates. They are managing like 7th generation out over the long term. So that's the new economy.
Do you think that could become a reality for most Americans at one point?
I think so, because I'm seeing it now. I mean, all our clients are new economy clients, and we have hundreds of clients. And we're not the only bank doing this. There's a bank in New York, there's a bank in Florida, there's a bank in Minnesota, and so there are other banks, and we all have tons of business of these new economy clients. So there's yes, I think that we're small. I think we're a few years away from the tipping point, but I do believe that it goes with the organic food revolution. As people more and more want organic food, and then they start looking at the rest of their life. Well, what about the clothes I wear? Where do they come from? And what has happened to the people who made these clothes? Or what about the appliances I buy? Everything you can look at from that lens is not just an organic food lens. You can spread that throughout your life. And so I see that happening. I think, again, like her question over there, there's probably going to be a generation before that new economy really comes into place. Yeah, but I'm optimistic about that. I see it. I see it every day. And I see. In fact, you go to San Francisco, every building that's built is a LEED. You know what LEED is? LEED is a qualification that when you build a building, it means that you have high standards of efficiency, energy efficiency, light, air, everything is at a much higher level. Every new building is a LEED building. I would say that there isn't a community in California now where the building codes don't require high efficiency. It's just plain good business. I would say that many businesses now realize that there is a market demand for organic, fair trade, and so they do it. It doesn't mean that they're committed, in any heart sense or any value sense. They're doing it because it's good business. And I think that is what is happening across the country. Many businesses are going green because it's good business, not because they have the values that lead them there. And I'm not going to be critical of that. I think it's great. So yes, I see that dramatically increasing our country. Yes.
Can you give us some numbers about your resource bank? Like how big are you? How many employees do you have and what are your plans for growth?
Yeah, so we are about a $400 million bank, which means we brought in capital and deposits of about $400 million that we lend out or keep in liquidity. We operate out of now 2 offices. We have one in San Francisco, and we just opened one in Boulder, which we will convert to a full-service branch next year. We have about 55 employees, so we are a small bank. There are a few others like us in the country at different sizes, but that's our size. And then plans for growth is that if you look at, you can look around the West Coast and say, what are the other cities we could go to where they're in the same social demographics and business demographics, meaning that you have B Corps, you have social venture networks, you have green chambers of commerce, and you have businesses that are in our target markets of organic food and energy efficiency and green real estate and sustainable business. So we've started doing that research. So we picked Boulder, Denver. We know Seattle has enough business for us to go to. LA has enough business for us to go to. Austin, Chicago. So we can see all these cities that as we prove the model in Boulder, then we want to go to some of the other cities as well. That will be our growth pattern. Yeah. Yes.
How do you think your impact working in banking is unique from, say, like policy change, working in an NGO, doing other like advocacy work?
Well, we need them both. I mean, there's a group in Washington,